Okay, that's as thin as I dare to go on the video. And the barb, I don't want to go any longer than that. I had some attempts earlier. Let me give you some dimensions first. I'm eventually going to make this one, right? The Marden hedge point. It's called a ripple flaked oblique pattern on the blade. I tried to do some of that. Not much on this side, but I tried it on this side. Okay. You can copy this or take a snapshot. It's a late Neolithic period point, 2500 BC, which means they did have copper. And I think that's what they napped us with, although I am using steel, mild steel, which is very similar to hardened copper. 5 centimeters long, 2 centimeters wide, and 1 centimeter for the depth of the hollow, with probably a maximum length of the barb of 5 centimeters beyond the length of the blade itself. Okay. So this one here, well, this is the pattern I've been using. So mine's pretty close. The sides aren't supposed to be bulging out very much on these, but I like the way it looks. When I do the actual reproduction, the sides will be straighter like this. Okay, but I took a raw piece of root beer chert, an excellent piece that I had. I knew it was not going to have internal flaws. I had a little bit of difficulty with the steel at first with the percussion flaking. Like most raw stone, percussion is dicey. You don't know if it's going to be consistent or not, or if it's going to nap consistently. With percussion, with pressure, it seems to respond pretty good, right? Because you can control the variables a little bit better. Anyway, I just like the way it looks from a aesthetic point of view, but it's probably also functional for war at this size. Now with an extra 5 centimeter barb, it's going to be a total of 10 centimeters. That's very outrageously excessive, right? So why would they do something like that? Well, again, it's probably a test of skill because it's totally unnecessary, right? It's a prestige type item. It's an item of privilege for several reasons. One, the material itself, you need to start with a long piece. And 10 centimeters is coincidentally about the same size as the largest hohokam points that are extremely thin. So I think we're reaching the end of the material strength, right? But you need to start out with a very large piece, and that takes up a lot of resources. First of all, you're going to break a lot of pieces, and then to actually come up with a point with a long barb like that, you need to waste a lot of material that could have been used as the preform looks like a knife. It could have been used as a knife instead of napping it all the way down to an arrowhead with an extremely large barb. Okay, that's one thing. Number two is the labor involved. I've been working on this for a couple days. I did another one that's a little smaller version. It's easier for me to do an intact barb with a smaller version. And then I graduated up to larger pieces, and I used some of my best raw material. Well, maybe not that one, but this one here. And I didn't finish these out because of failures. And let's see. I'm going to get the pieces together here. And these all started at 10 centimeters or longer. In the what do you call it? In the nodule state, or in the in the biface preform state, I had to start with something longer than 10 centimeters. And I don't have very many pieces of those of high quality flint or chert. Anyway, these are my attempts in the past couple days. All raw stone. These are all raw stone. That has, like I said, its own inherent difficulties because not all raw stone is the same, obviously. Now, heat treating can help that along, right? Because some raw stone will heat treat to a certain softness, depending on how hot it goes. Some have a range, right? A lot of my stones do have a range, so I can experiment with it and get it to a certain softness that I like to work with, right? And that takes time as well. So in the past, I think they were also using heat-treated stone, but they knew the range. They knew the ranges that you could heat treat at to get to the right consistency for making these types of points. Not too hot, not too low as far as the heat goes, but get a range in there that will match the softness that you want. Okay, that takes time to develop a lot of those preforms because you have to experiment with each type of stone unless you have a lot of exactly one type. Even if you have a lot of exactly one type, the outside of the stone is different from the inside of the stone in many cases. So you skin off the outsides because that's the best quality. You heat treat them to a certain range that gives you the working properties you need for these long barbs. And then you commit to the labor to learn how to do this and to develop the tools to do this. You need long pressure flakers because you're going to have to avoid these barbs. Right? That's one thing I learned. I needed a longer pressure flaker. You also need some flexibility in the tip in order to pop off these flakes so they don't go less than halfway. You need some flexibility in your flaker to send these flakes further than halfway, especially when you want to thin down that barb. Now, there is a median ridge on the one that I made, and that's for strength, right? It's good to have that, but if there's a lump somewhere, you need to be able to go past that, and a flexible pressure flaker helps. Okay, so I'll try this again. Probably not anytime soon because I'm working on other projects right now that I'd rather get into that are more exciting and interesting to me. But I do like the look of this type of and this style of point. So I hope that's good enough. I will come back to this eventually someday. But for now, that's it. Okay.